we're not planning on going very long because what really is there to say? Um, Very little. But I will start just by saying, I watched CNN a little bit. I only watch corporate media when something awful like this happens. My wife wanted to watch some of the news to see what's going on. Obviously, I'm a father of twin 3-year-old boys, so this news always hits hard. The terrifying thing about being a parent is that you watch your heart walk around outside your body. And the most terrifying thing about being a parent is probably the most terrifying thought I've ever had, which is that even if everything goes perfectly well, there's going to be a day when I'm gone and I can't take care of them. That's the best case scenario. That's if everything goes well and they far outlive me. There's going to be a day when they're going to be on their own. And that's a horrifying thought. But of course,
Not for them.
Well, right. But, more horrifying than that.
They're probably already looking at the door.
Yeah, right, exactly. But more horrifying than that is, of course, the alternative. And so, this is just absolutely just horrific news. And, watching CNN, I just watched Anderson Cooper interview the mother of a Newtown parent. This December will be the 10th anniversary of that shooting, when people were shocked and horrified and thought, okay, now something has to happen. 10 years later, here we are. It hasn't. And the cynicism that's sort of left over from the aftermath of that has really loomed large over the events of this afternoon heading into this evening. And we saw Anderson Cooper and David Axelrod and Gloria Borger, all the same talking heads that they've had on for, over a decade now, it seems. Same people come out there and say, well, Biden is going to speak tonight. I watched Biden's brief words here. And they all talk about, when are people in Congress going to muster the courage to do something about guns? And it's interesting that they never ask the same of the people. When are the people going to do something? When are the people going to muster the courage to do something about guns? Going on and on and on, over and over and over again, expecting inaction, expecting failure, which is what these pundits were saying leading up to Biden's speech. It was like, yeah, he's going to come out, he's going to say all the right things probably, but nothing's going to happen, right? Everybody is just resigned to this horrible status quo now. And, it's a corporate media network, and they don't like to rock the boat too much. And so they always stop short of saying what I think, needed to be said a long time ago. I had this thought a couple years ago when I interviewed somebody from Moms Demand Action, which is, hey, what this is going to take now is organized and coordinated mass action, i.e. a strike. Where the fuck is the teachers union on this? Where's the worthless fucking teachers union? Where's Randy Weingarten? Where are the teachers standing up and saying, hey, you know what? How's this? We're not showing up until X, Y, and Z is done. You need the teachers unions coordinating with these gun control advocacy groups, and you need to come up with a list of things you need done and say, we are not showing up to work as long as there is a good chance we're going to have our heads blown off in the fucking classroom. That's what has to happen.
That would require moral courage, Keith.
Well, it would require not just moral courage, but it would require people to be willing to actually put their ass on the chopping block, just like they want people in Congress to put their ass on the chopping block. You have to actually go out there and do that. And you need political leadership that will encourage that. Not go up there with this sad bastard fucking Charlie Brown routine. Oh, time after time this happens and nothing gets done. Nothing gets done. You need coordinated, organized, mass action. And I don't mean, by the way, just to go on the record, across the board gun confiscation. I'm talking about very basic things. universal background checks, reasonable age limits. No, an 18-year-old kid should not be able to walk into a Walmart and leave the same day with 2 automatic weapons. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. You know, maybe I'm not populist enough for some of you guys, but no, I don't think that should be the law. I don't think a guy like Kyle Rittenhouse should be able to get his hands on a gun and parade through the streets of a riot. You know, yes, we do need to go much further than we are now in terms of gun control. Absolutely. I know a lot of populist lefties are not with me on that. That's fine. And like I said, I'm not for across-the-board confiscation, totally disarm the entire public. That's not the page I'm on. But we need to do a hell of a lot more because this is too big a price to be paying, obviously. It's too big a price to be paying, and it causes too much harm to the social fabric of this country to continue to tolerate it. And by continue to tolerate it, I mean continue to react the same way every time it happens, which is, oh, man, those Republicans have to muster the backbone to defy their donor. Okay, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. The Democrats don't have the courage to sit Joe Manchin's ass down and say we are abolishing the filibuster. We're either going to prosecute your criminal daughter for her EpiPen bullshit or, you know, bribe him, do whatever. They're not willing to do that. And Biden, signed a few executive orders related to this issue in April of 2021, but he's got to go further. And if nothing is going to happen politically with a big P, meaning in Washington, then it's going to have to happen politically with a small p on the streets and through labor actions and strikes. The teachers' union is a very powerful union. Teachers tend to be liberal people. Even in red states, teachers tend to be liberal. And even if they're not liberal, 90% of the American people are on board with universal background checks. And so you need ordinary people organized and coordinated and disrupting the system until there is action taking place. That's the only answer. This other stuff is just, it's masturbation. Anyway, that's my take.
Well, I think what's more important right now is that they litigate the sins of people from the 18th century and pull down their statues, because they're contending with that right now, rather than to take on people who have power now, who actually have power in the present moment. And I think that's true very often with the left. That we want to have a reckoning with the past, and yet horrors are being committed in the present, and those involve actually having to confront people who are alive, who are committing atrocities, nations that are powerful, nations that have relationships to our governments. I think that's true across the board with the left. Like they want to pick boutique issues where the things that they're going after are really not a threat to them. They don't want to go after Disney. Why are you cooperating with the government of China? You want to talk about atrocities? You want to talk about slavery? You want to talk about that? You got it right there. You got it. It's happening today. It's happening right now. You don't have to go back to Jefferson. You can go right today, man. Why don't you go take them on? Go take on the relationships that our corporations have there. Go take on the relationship that our government has with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia still has a large slave population within its borders. I think this is typical across the board that the left, when they are confronted with an issue that's not revising history, not taking on people who have been dead for 200 years. If you want to talk about actually doing something in the present, that means taking on powerful special interests. That means taking on people on your own side. That means making enemies. They don't want to do that. And I think that's a big part of why they channel all of their energy into going after dead people.
Well, we should talk about healthcare. Because, look, you want to talk about the mental health component of this. I know that gets sort of brought up cynically by right-wingers who don't want to talk about the gun part of it, but I'll engage you on that. That's why you need universal healthcare. You need universal healthcare, including mental health care. You absolutely need that. We don't have that. We don't have universal health care at all. Joe Biden goes up there and says, it occurred to me on my flight back from Asia that these gun massacres don't happen anywhere else in the world. Well, Mr. President, we still lose tens of thousands of people a year to the fact that they cannot afford medicine. That doesn't happen anywhere else in the world either. Okay? Tens of thousands of bodies piling up every year in the United States of America because people could not afford medical care. That's also unique to this country. And every one of those fuckers on CNN, including Anderson Cooper, who was doing the panel, he decided to do his fucking Fidel Castro hit job in the 11th hour against the candidate who wanted universal health care. David Axelrod spends the entirety of his time on CNN, it seems, pissing on all of these sorts of issues. Railing against Medicare for all the whole time until he gets sick and he gets a bill and then he tweets out, hey, this is crazy, right? Yeah, it takes courage. It takes courage. And you can't just look to politicians for courage. You have to look to the people for courage, and the people are going to have the courage to disrupt the system in a major way. And that's something that President Bernie Sanders, that was one of the exciting things about the possibility of electing him president, because there's a chance he goes on TV at, 8:45 this evening and says, hey, I want the teachers union to stand up and say, we're not working anymore until something is fucking done.
Right.
He might do that because he has the courage to disrupt the system.
Call it a general strike.
Right. A strike.
like a president calling a general strike. It would have been a beautiful thing.
Oh, it's not politically possible? Well, too fucking bad. Too fucking bad. The teachers of Maine are not going to school, are not showing up until Susan Collins votes yes on a gun control bill. How's that? The teachers of West Virginia are not showing up, which means the economy of West Virginia does not function until this corrupt piece of shit votes yes on the bill. That's how you're going to do this if you're going to do this.
Honestly,
this whole thing is just it's a loop. It's over and over and over again, the same fucking thing, and it's failing. It's failing. These gun advocacy groups, God bless them, they're failing because they're thinking inside the box. They're raising a bunch of money and jerking each other off. That's all they're doing. You need to disrupt. Right. You have to disrupt. And disrupt doesn't mean pick a Saturday in March and have a March for Our Lives where we all get together and take the train and buy Starbucks and walk down fucking Central Park West for 2 hours and go home. You have to disrupt continually in an organized manner. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
Well, a left that's largely made up of privileged people is not a left that's going to put its neck on the line.
All right.
These people, you're not going to get change from people who are ensconced in the system, who have something to lose by pissing off the system, who have something to lose by pissing off the establishment. These people are the establishment. When they go out on these fucking marches, it's like why people used to go to church, to be seen going to church.
Right.
That's all it is for them, right? Oh, look at my pussy hat. Oh, look at me. Look at my sign. Oh, let me put that up on Instagram. Right. It's not activism any more than most of the people who used to go to church, even when that was a more popular pastime than today, really believed in the shit. How many of them really believed in it versus how many of them were going to be seen going?
And for the social contact and things like that.
Exactly. Well, it's the same thing.
Yeah, same. Right. Exactly.
It's a ritual. It's a social ritual. It's a cultural signaling. But they're not willing to sacrifice anything. That's why I started with what I was talking about, because I've actually been thinking about this. Because hey, all of these horrors that we're talking about from the past that we want to reckon with, these horrors, slavery, and as we should. They're going on right now, and they don't talk about that. Like it never comes up. So I thought about that. Well, why is that? Well, because you'd actually have to do something.
Right.
You'd actually have to do something beyond symbolism, beyond pulling down a statue. You'd actually have to challenge China. You'd actually have to challenge Saudi Arabia. You'd actually have to lean on people on your own side who are very cozy with people who are committing the atrocities that you say you care so much about when they happened 200 years ago, but they're committing them now. And you're going to have to go after a lot of Democrats if you're going to start trying to change those things in the present tense.
Yeah,
And
and make yourself uncomfortable.
right,
That's the big
you're going
thing.
to have to take backlash. You're going to have
Right.
to take shit. You're going to be you're going to be us. You're
Right. Right. Right.
going to be the person speaking out against prominent Democratic politicians who all the media say you should that's sinful. That's a sin. You should only say nice things about these people. And these woke washed corporations, like Apple, like Disney. Disney's one of the fucking worst. They're one of the worst. You get okay, so you're so you want to cancel J.K. Rowling. Well, why don't you cancel Warner Brothers for cutting out the dialogue in the Harry Potter movies that indicated that Dumbledore was gay in China? Where's the boycott? Where's the boycott against Warner Brothers? You're so upset with Rowling. Why aren't you upset with Warner Brothers for making that cut in China?
Well, look, I mean, if we want to, even I don't know if you got to see Biden's speech. I don't think you did, but he talked about how the gun manufacturers are marketing these AR-15s to young people so that they could sell a bunch of them and make a profit. And yeah, I agree that's awful. But what credibility do you have on that issue when you just bought $30 billion worth of weapons of war and shipped them to a different country so that they can fight our war for us against Russia? This is a country that's just obsessed with violence. It's obsessed with warfare. It's woven into the mythology of what the country is. And you have now the president goes on TV and says, well, how dare these gun manufacturers market these weapons to teenagers? Okay, well, meanwhile, just a few days ago, Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, billions of dollars worth of checks in the mail, signed, shipped the weapons to Ukraine. It's just a country with no credibility on anything anymore. And this is big picture why we have said for a long time that we're going through a social collapse. It's a collapsing country. And no Democrat is going to save us from that. No politicians are going to save us from that. It's going to require, what guys like Chris Hedges say is, the moral imperative of revolt, right? It's just going to require mass action, mass coordinated action. And, it's funny. I mean, look, you see communities like Newtown, Parkland, just absolutely devastated by these things. But, those are the ones that make the headlines. There have been 30 mass shootings in K through 12 schools this year in the United States. 30 shootings in K through 12 schools. 38 counting colleges, universities, things like that. So we've had almost 40 school shootings in what? A little under 6 months. We heard about a few of them recently.
Yeah,
but this happens all the time now. It's a fact of life now.
Right. It's almost like it almost feels like every few days, literally, like we have a mass shooting. I mean, it's not funny. I mean, I'm laughing at the horror and the absurdity of the fact that we let it get this far.
Right.
I mean, it is very much the frog in the pot of boiling water. If you had told somebody 20 years ago that we would tolerate that as a nation, they would have told you we're crazy. But it happened one step at a time. It just became more common and more common and more common until finally it became not acceptable, but just a fact of life that you're going to see. It's like living in Beirut and reading about the suicide bomber, right? I mean, it's a fact of life. It's how we live now. But of course, I mean, what could be a greater symptom of the fact that a society is deeply sick and wounded and pathologized and on its last legs than virtually weekly, sometimes 2 a week incidents like this?
Yeah.
Like what could better show you that a society is collapsing than
And by
that?
the way, when we say 1 or 2 a week, we're talking about school shootings. In terms of mass
Yeah,
shootings,
yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
multiple shootings per day. There's multiple mass shootings in this country happen every day. When we talk about 1 or 2 a week, you're talking about in a school.
Yeah, man. It's it's not pretty.